Hi there, this is Ron Myers from the consulting room. Today, I'd like to welcome Richard Gibbons from Boost My Customers and Emma Rothery from Era Skin and Laser Clinic about the use of paid-for Facebook advertising and how aesthetic clinics can use this strategy to cost-effectively bring in new customers for both HydraFacial and, in fact, any other aesthetic treatment, really. So thank you for joining me today, Richard and Emma.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. So just give a bit more background about Richard and Emma for those of you who don't know them. Richard is the founder of the Facebook advertising agency Boost My Customers, and they specialize in helping salons and clinics generate bookings on demand. So after working with over 50 clinics and salons, Richard has what he believes is a tried and trusted approach to lead generation in the aesthetic sector that has allowed him to even, believe it or not, guarantee results, which is always cool. I always like guarantees. And Emma has a background in sales and marketing, and some of you may actually know Emma as well, because prior to opening Era Skin and Laser in March 2019, she worked for various pharmaceutical companies, including Sinclair Pharma, who of course are very well known, where she was the marketing director responsible for big brands such as Silhouette Soft, Ellanse and Perfectha as well. And Emma's clinic is based in Tame, which is a beautiful part of Oxfordshire. And she specialises in face and body rejuvenating treatments. And she started with one therapist and an aesthetic doctor who did injectables. And I'm really pleased to hear that she's anticipating the increase in demand for aesthetic treatments that I also expect to see this year by recently employing 2 new therapists. So that's very positive. So what I want to do for a start is just start off with Richard, please, if I can do. And just really ask, in your experience, how does Facebook advertising compare with other online advertising options from a lead generation and return on investment perspective?
Yeah, great question. So I think the main thing why we love Facebook and Instagram, especially for the aesthetic sector, is just because how visual it is. Well, compared to like Google Ads, where you only get a little bit of text. The great thing with Facebook is you can be super granular with the targeting. So I can target ladies in a 5-mile radius of your location who earn above this income, who are in the market for this kind of treatment, like super specific. And then when you show them a high quality image or video explaining the treatment, for example, the HydraFacial, it pretty much sells itself. So you're just being really visual, and obviously with beauty aesthetics as a visual industry, people want to see the process. So we found the lead quality to be much higher, and obviously the cost per lead to be pretty good compared to say Google or other advertising platforms as well.
Yeah, excellent. And you're right, it's amazing really how granular you can get in terms of targeting people. It's kind of amazing, scary, really.
Yeah, Facebook know everything. Because even like in myself, like when I'm talking to my wife or something, and then we're discussing like a pair of socks, for example, and then the next day you go on Facebook, you're like, oh my goodness, this pair of socks has magically appeared on my timeline. So it's pretty creepy how like super targeted it can be.
So based on that and the fact that it is so super targeted and you can pick these kind of what you feel are your ideal customers in your locality right next to your clinical salon, why do you think so many clinic or salon owners are still hesitant about exploring Facebook advertising?
Yes, I think there's probably like two or three pools of people. So there's the people who are maybe used to traditional advertising like leaflets, radio, newspapers, and they're kind of overwhelmed with the information they see. Facebook and the online world is kind of this mystery box where you put money into it and you lose that money forever kind of thing. Yeah. Or at least with like a leaflet, you can actually hold it in your hand and you may have 1,000 stacked up next to you, but you're like, okay, I spent money on this. I can see like I've got something for it. So the people who are kind of unknowledgeable, and then people who have had a bad experience either doing it themselves or they've paid another agency who have overpromised the world, and then you pay them money, you never hear from them again. So I think it's probably the majority of people we speak to, I'd say 80% have tried Facebook themselves. But the problem again is they've had no strategy. So they've kind of gone into it thinking overnight success, great. I've heard if you spend £1,000 on Facebook, you're going to get £20,000 out the next day. And honestly, it doesn't work like that. So I think it's just having, like Emma knows, the right expectations before you go into it. And then once you have that with a strategy, then you will succeed. It's just overthinking and thinking Facebook is the magic way, when it could be any platform. If you have no strategy, then you're not really going to get anywhere with it.
Yeah, correct. I think there's a science to it, and having a realistic approach to how you do it. And of course, I think the beauty of this as well is that you can kind of test it with not necessarily a huge amount of money as well. So the risk, I think, if it's managed properly, isn't as great as a lot of people think. So,
correct.
In your experience, then, when you're creating an advertising campaign, are there any sort of simple rules that clinics should follow to try and improve the chances really of generating leads in a cost-effective fashion?
Yeah, so the major thing with Facebook and Instagram is following their guidelines first and foremost.
Yeah.
Again, because so many people, like we've had clinics who come to us and say, oh, we tried our own Facebook ad and we've been banned. Like, what does that mean? And they've either done like a before and after photo, they've showed graphic videos of people being injected with things and all crazy stuff. So the main thing before you spend any money, even if you like hire a marketing agency, you need to know the fundamentals. So then you know exactly what they're doing. So follow their guidelines, or whatever we say, the next thing is not going to matter because you'll be banned anyway. And I think just having a clear call to action and just making your adverts, again, with Facebook, Instagram ads, they're not looking for your services at that time. They're on Facebook, they're scrolling through. So if you haven't got something to immediately capture their attention with either an incredible hook at the front line and great video, they're just going to scroll past and you'll be wondering why no one's clicking. So I think the call to action is really, really clear within the first like 1 to 2 lines. Just, this is what we're offering. This is our offer. This is our service. If you do that, you will get some traction. But again, if you haven't got the targeting, then no matter what you advertise, if there's no need for it in that market, then again, you're not going to get any clicks on it too.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think whatever you're doing here, whether you're trying to do it yourself or employing an agency, you still need to understand, because the agency may not understand some of the semantics of our sector. And as you know, it's quite easy to get banned. And I'm not sure, I've never been banned, but I think it's not, there's a process that you have to go through to try and be able to get that account up and running again. That's what I've heard.
You can't phone them up unless you, like, we've got a Facebook rep ourselves because we're an agency, but most people, you got to go through support, which goes like 20 different people you're chucked around. But again, if you know what you're doing from the start, you'll avoid that headache straight away.
I can imagine. Are there any other mistakes or common mistakes that people make when they try and do it themselves that they should be aware of?
Yes, I'd say when you're trying to do it themselves, most people press the boost button. So on Facebook or Instagram, you put up an incredible post of your new treatment, and then underneath Facebook are pretty cheeky. They say, do you want to reach 20,000 more people? It's only going to cost you £250. And they press that button, they spend £250, and all they're left with is a bill from Facebook and nothing, like maybe some likes from India or China, and this is not worthwhile. So I think not falling into the trap of pressing the boost button is probably the biggest thing we've seen people fail when doing their marketing. Again, Facebook want you just to spend money with them. But if you do it on the back end using like Ads Manager, Business Manager on Facebook, you'll get much better return, and you can actually test more and actually have like physical results you can see. Whereas the boost button, just you get like, oh, you reached 20,000 people with no real specifics of who you're reaching. And again, that's kind of pointless. If you're spending any money on Facebook and you're not making money back, then just have a think about it and think, where is my money going? And what can we do just to tweak from there?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I guess you never, as an agency, never really use that boost function,
never,
do you?
No,
that's why I think some people think that's what Facebook advertising is, and it's not at all really. That's interesting. So, I mean, from your perspective, you said, well, obviously targeting is one of the main things, but of course it's this ability to be able to grab the attention of that person who you think is a candidate for that particular treatment. So how do you create that, like, especially with offers, of course, as well, how do you create kind of like an offer that engages and generates leads for treatments such as HydraFacial, for instance?
Yeah, so you've got to be creative. I think the main thing is being creative and having a hook. So, and the offer's only going to work as well. We can do 90% off a treatment, for example. We'd never do that. But if we're showing that offer to the wrong demographic and the wrong audience, we're literally going to attract people who live out of a radius, Groupon, like office scroungers who just want a discount. So the main thing is making sure your demographic and targeting is sorted before you go to create an offer. And then once you've got your dream kind of client persona or avatar in your mind, you can then form an offer around their wants, needs, goals, and fears. So with HydraFacial, for example, you can get them in for an initial introductory session, discount the first session at whatever you feel like you want to do, just to hook someone in, with the goal of the hardest bit is getting someone through your doors. Once you've got someone through your doors and you're good at what you do, you give them an amazing experience, you can upsell them on a HydraFacial package, or if they don't want that, sell them a skincare package, show them other treatments. But just doing an initial first session discount is our most effective one. But because the main thing as well, so many clinics, obviously their end goal for HydraFacial is to sell a package or course of treatments for it, which
Absolutely.
100% agree. But if you're shoving that on Susie down the road who doesn't even know what the HydraFacial is, and she doesn't know the therapist, you're going to scare them off straight away. There's going to be so many objections in their mind. So just getting them in for that initial hook with an introductory offer, let them try it. And once they see their skin glowing, they're looking awesome, it's going to be easier to sell once they've experienced it than trying to sell without providing value to begin with.
Yeah, okay, that's really, really good pointers there. In your experience as well, like how scalable are campaigns if you hit on a successful strategy?
So they're pretty scalable. So we've taken some clinics who, like one in Cardiff, actually, they were doing it part-time. So they had like a clinic on the side and they wanted more people. That was 2 years ago, they signed up with us. And then after time, they wanted to get busier and busier. So now they're at 2 full-time clinics. She quit her accountancy job and she's doing incredibly. And every month she's wanting more and more clients.
Okay.
So at the start, like we work with really small people who only want small scale clients. And then people like multi-location who need 50, 60, 70 clients per location a month.
Yeah.
So it's really about what you can handle as well. There's no point us sit like a brand new clinic saying, I want 60 people in the first month. And then they've got 0 systems. They don't know what they're doing. And at the end, they will get the blame when actually they didn't have all the systems in place. Yeah. So before you do that, make sure obviously you've got your systems in place, your marketing all around, so you're not run off your feet completely. And then you should be fine with scaling.
Excellent. And just one final question before I talk to Emma really is, so obviously there, I'm probably going to talk to Emma a bit about this as well from her perspective, because there are so many different providers out there. It seems like everyone and their dog is a Facebook advertising expert now. And I get hit on LinkedIn all the time by this, as I'm sure you probably do as well.
Even
Richard.
Myself. Yes.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah. So how does Boost My Customers differ from other agencies?
So I think the main thing which makes us stand out is just specializing in the aesthetic beauty sector, but also real results from real people. I think it's, nowadays especially, it's so hard to find like case studies or actually speak to, like if clients want to speak to my clients, I'll just give them a list and they can speak to them themselves.
Lovely.
So not being secretive, but also like an all-around marketing approach. Like we don't just run a Facebook ad for our client. We'll make sure it's trackable. We'll do your email marketing, text marketing. We'll train your team. So everything is kind of linked up. Whereas so many people just will run a Facebook ad, get some inquiries and not even qualify them for the client. And it's kind of, then you get 1,000 leads through, but a lead is kind of pointless if they're not converting because you're just wasting the time.
Yeah.
So that trackable, again, we train all of the clinics teams and we're fully accountable. I think that's probably the thing our clients love. Like we're both, like I'm really honest, my clients are super honest. And on our dashboard, we can see the results. I can't pretend and say, oh yeah, we've had this. Like the results are there. Which I love because that keeps us working super hard. But also for clients, if they're not too like knowledgeable about marketing, instead of confusing them with lingo, we'll talk about real inquiries, people who have walked through their door, rather than, oh, your cost per click was this is your click-through rate, which doesn't matter if you're not making money. So we try and make it as easy for clinics as possible to see they're obviously making money in return from it all.
Well, I like that, and obviously, you know, it is, you know, it's the approach really that is really trying to get to the end goal that customer wants, which is the right kind of people coming in through the door that are then going to go on and become hopefully loyal repeat customers, and that's the trick, isn't it? Really.
That's the goal, yeah.
I'm going to go to Emma because Emma is not unsophisticated from a marketing point of view, as we know. So Emma, obviously you thought long and hard about this, well, I suppose number one, like using Facebook, but also whether you did it yourself or whether you employed an agency. So could you just kind of go through the process of really why you decided to use Facebook and then how you came up with, you know, if you like, your tip list around what agency you would employ?
Yeah, of course. So being a new clinic, obviously for us, it was about leads need to come in. We need new customers. We are very lucky. We're on the high street location. We get a lot of walk-ins, a lot of word of mouth referrals. But I very much see Facebook as being part of the marketing mix now. I don't think it's something that you can just ignore, but neither do I think it's something that you should use in isolation. I know that lots of clinics, you know, have built their businesses based on Instagram. And if you can do that, that's fantastic. But I think for most people, dependent on your demographic and whereabouts you're located, Facebook is a really good way of generating new customers. But having said that, as you probably know, you could be just mercilessly targeted by Facebook companies doing exactly what you said at the start, promising you the world. Yeah. And actually, when you then speak to them, they don't deliver, or they won't guarantee you anything. So all you're doing is you might as well just be setting fire to your budget, really. So I knew that I wanted to include Facebook within our marketing here as part of the marketing mix, but I wanted to work with somebody who was actually going to guarantee some results.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I think, and I think that's really important. I mean, I think, as you know, you never really know when you're employing an external partner, whoever that is, to work with you, and you're giving the money, exactly how it's all going to pan out. And it is difficult because, again, they're marketing agencies. They will obviously present themselves, hopefully, in a professional way and in a way that is credible. And as you say, you only really know when you've kind of experienced it. So, and it's interesting what you say as well around the Instagram side of things, because my daughter runs a small HydraFacial clinic, and she's been doing that for probably about a year and a half, about the same sort of time as you. But she has built that around Instagram. But she's a practitioner, and she's utilised, I suppose, her enthusiasm about skin particularly to kind of build that. However, having said that, that's taken an awful lot of time, work and effort as well. Mm-hmm. And so with all of these, you've got to kind of look and go, well, what is my role within the business? Where can I put that? And is it easier for me to put that money into an agency who will then take that pressure and strain off me about lead generation, rather than me have to sit there and think every day what I'm going to do to engage and bring leads in on Instagram. So it's interesting, and of course both of them can run in parallel as well. But for me, I suppose, especially when you're starting off, I think Facebook advertising is that quick fix around just getting leads in, hopefully like next week if you want to.
Yeah, I think it's about when you run. So we're a machine based business here. So whilst we have an aesthetic doctor, Botox and fillers is not, injectable products are not our mainstay. Right. We focus very much on latest technologies, and I think when you are a machine based clinic, you have to make sure that those machines are paying for themselves, and actually they're delivering the return on investment that you expect them to deliver. Yeah. So I very much see Facebook as a way of ensuring that all my machines are profitable, because mm-hmm. if when you are reviewing where you've got to in the year, you're looking and thinking, okay, well, that machine's generated X, but actually I was hoping it was going to generate Y. Yeah. Facebook is a great way to be able to think, okay, I need some additional business in, I need some additional leads in for this particular treatment, and Facebook can help deliver that for you, but only if it's managed in the right way.
Well, that's it. And do you know what? I mean, and you'll know this as well. I haven't been in the industry for a while. It's when you get into that machine marketplace, and especially if you've got a machine that one of the things with HydraFacial at least is that you've got that repeat income if you get the model around selling packages. Yeah. But when you've got a device that might cure someone of a problem in 2 or 3 treatments, it can be very difficult to kind of look at keeping that busy, especially if it's a really high. I'm thinking of a cool sculpting model or something like that. Yeah. And generally, where people find it difficult is the cost of the customer acquisition and getting that figure right, so that it all washes through properly from a profit and loss perspective for that particular device. So obviously, you've got experience of working with Boost My Customers. Sorry. So how did you prepare specific campaigns to deal with leads that were generated for HydraFacial? What was your thought processes around this?
So my thought process was, having done this before with Facebook advertising, is that it's very easy to generate a whole load of leads, but not the right type of leads for your business or the right kind of demographic that you want to attract. And, it is very easy if you're using Facebook to acquire leads that are what I would call like the Groupon customers. So somebody that just wants to come in and have a deal. They're really not interested in anything else. So they are not the kind of customers that we want, or I guess most clinics would want. So I think, working with Richard, we were able to create, and one of the reasons why I really like his system is we were able to create a funnel so that actually we were qualifying those leads. So, when people expressed an interest, the funnel took them through a process which enabled us to see that they were actually generally interested in the service, which cuts out a lot of time wasters in a clinic environment.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I mean, I think there's other steps there which obviously you've taken to rather than just taking that lead and going, well, that's a hot lead, if you see what I mean, and they're all definitely candidates, is somehow they're going through the funnel process. Could you explain a little bit more about what that funnel involves then? Because there's two things here, aren't there? The first one is basically well, clickbait, you call it, whatever, I don't care what it is, but it's the offer, and getting that sweet spot between something that looks just too cheap and is bringing the wrong people, but something that is, I suppose, enough of an incentive for them to kind of go, yeah, well, that's something I would like to, to learn more about. So how did you get that figure? Because that's really hard.
Yeah, and you make a really good point there, Ron. So basically that is one of the problems with Facebook, is that people want a deal. Yeah. And so you have to, as a clinic, have really done your numbers and gone through your numbers to look at what that means in terms of what offer you can put out that will still enable you to run this profitably. Yeah. And in terms of working that back to how many leads you need to generate, what your average conversion rate is going to be on those leads, in order to make sure that when you run your campaign, it's actually been worthwhile and you have made a decent return on investment. And I will say that with HydraFacial, in all honesty, it's hard because, you have to generate a significant amount of leads because people do expect an offer. Yeah. And, if you don't put together a good enough offer, a strong enough offer, that will just cut down the amount of leads you get in. So you've got to weigh the two up. Yeah. And that, again, I guess is why, I really enjoyed working with Richard on this, because he completely gets that, and we were able to work through the numbers together to make sure that actually we were generating enough leads to at least cover the costs. Yeah. Because, this is not a cheap service. Yeah. And I'll be very upfront about that. It's not. But if you've got your numbers right and your margin and what you need to achieve, it's possible to make this work and work very well to bring in some new customers who, as Richard said at the outset, you can then either might move on to HydraFacial packages, or in our case we found that people would move on to skincare. So a lot of our HydraFacial customers that came in initially are now really good, loyal skincare customers. We're a ZO clinic here, and so the two work really well hand in hand. Excellent.
And I think that's it. I think it's like, it's being really sophisticated with tracking the numbers and understanding, people always say this, but the potential. I know people get confused about this, the lifetime value of that customer. But, and it's very difficult, as we know, because like every customer is different. But if you've been running a clinic for a while, you will know, I was involved in running one for 15 years. The lifetime value of some of those customers was unbelievable, tens and tens of thousands of pounds. But if you're looking at bringing someone in that's going to cost you on average £200 or £300, that kind of sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? And I'm not saying that's for HydraFacial, but just thinking on average. And people go, well, oh God, I'm never going to make any money back. But, there are business models, literally, with sophisticated people who understand business and numbers that will bring in and basically make a loss on that first treatment. But knowing that when it washes through, the conversion of the people that go on and buy the other treatments far outweighs the odd person there where you may have made a loss on. And I think that's just being a bit sophisticated around that and understanding that. And it's nice that you can have that conversation with Richard, who understands it. So you can kind of come up with that, engage that sweet spot there. Because I would imagine, Richard, as well, that this is going to vary depending on the demographics and the wealth of an area as well. I would imagine Tame, Oxfordshire, I don't know, but is probably a little bit more wealthy than maybe, an inner city area if you've got a clinic there.
Yes, I think the good thing of Facebook, like with Emma at the start, we discussed like different areas where she was, which had like good pools of customers. But even at the start, like with Facebook, it's not like you run one ad and that's the perfect targeting, the perfect advertising. Like with Emma, we were constantly on calls like this, just going back and forth, tweaking little bits. And after time you hit that sweet spot, then you can kind of get the really good people. But even if you're in an area, like we've got clients in Yeovil, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and we can just target like specific postcodes, specific areas who they know most of their or the majority of their clients come from, and we can get more people from there. So you can be pretty creative with it as well.
Excellent. And also with this, I think you're going to be realistic around, as I say, that finding that sweet spot process as well, which might take, you know, a couple of months or so to be able to get to that kind of level, and not to expect that you're going to get fantastic return on investment on this in week one, you know, because I don't think that's realistic. Although obviously, I guess, Richard, the more you've done this around different areas of the country, the easier it is for you to actually kind of go, well, you know, which is the idea of having a specialist agency and go, I can model something around your business because I've kind of been there and done it before and got some numbers that look like I can kind of repeat that.
Yeah, so like with our case studies, we can, again, every demographic's a little bit different, but for each treatment we know, great, if we run this off, like with Emma, we'll probably get these results, which results in this. And our conversion rates are pretty high. So like we've got a client in Advanced Laser Aesthetics in Doncaster. They opened their business in like September, brand new, out of lockdown. And within their first week, they already covered their costs. They were super, super busy because they spent the months before like building the foundations, and we trained their team, we trained them on it. Whereas if we launch with a brand new clinic who doesn't have that, like we're not going to overpromise them and say, oh yeah, we're definitely going to get you this and this. Like we will be realistic with it. Because again, there's no point filling up massively, you get overbooked and then you can't cope, like I said at the start.
So that's a good point, Emma. Just so kind of end to end with this, you know, it's not just about, you know, throwing some money at a Facebook agency, which some people do, and then going, well, here you go, and then generate some leads without any proper process. So what sort of, in your experience, what advice would you give clinic owners about using Facebook advertising to drive in new clients,
Okay, so I think the main thing is to have a really robust system in place for following up those clients. So what we found was, you know, the system works in terms of generating, you know, leads on a regular basis. You know, I will say all the companies that I have sort of been approached by and spoken to, Richard's system is amazing because it provides you with a dashboard. So you don't lose track of any leads, which in anything like this is really important. But you do have to have, like I said, a robust system. So you have to be able to have, you know, staff available to follow up those customer inquiries as soon as they come in, to get people booked into the diary. Because what we found is if you don't, you know, if you don't follow them up the same day, then generally the next day they're very difficult to get hold of. You know, life takes over, doesn't it? People become interested in something else, or they've clicked on something else. So you know, you do have to make sure that you can do those follow-ups. That's, I guess, sort of the main learning that we had from the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously important with any lead generated from any source. And you know, I get a bit frustrated about that with the consulting room as well, because you know, we get around about 900,000 visitors a year to the site, and we have an access in there where people can directly contact through email a clinic. And we put in the email and say, look, if you haven't heard back from the clinic in 24 hours, please get in touch with us, you know. And it's amazing, actually, even particularly during this lockdown as well, how many people have been coming back and going, clinic's not got back in touch. You know, you go, oh, what? Yeah. Why? You know, but yeah, I mean, it's absolutely pointless spending money on generating leads unless you've got the process the other end to handle them properly. And not only that, of course, as well, the training the other end in terms of the conversions, sales skills, consultation skills, being able to, particularly with HydraFacial as well. And I know running a clinic as well, there were some people that were really great at selling HydraFacial packages, and other people that just couldn't get it. Yeah. You know, and part of that was again for us to kind of look and going, well, what is happening here? What's happening from a training point of view? You know, the art of that consultation and getting that across. And sometimes people were just a bit afraid about talking about three-figure sums. You know, and that's kind of what it came down to, because they wouldn't spend it themselves on themselves. But of course, that's not the point. So it's interesting. So as we're talking about money, and I know, Emma, you did say it was expensive, but again, all of this is around relative. It's about value and around, you know, where you put your marketing budget and a return on investment. So just wanted to explore the rough costs, just so that people have an idea around this if they're going to engage with you, Richard. How does it work? And is there any kind of contract commitment or all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we've got different packages. So again, every clinic's a little bit different. Like a small one-person band is going to be a smaller cost than a massive franchise who wants multiple things.
Sure.
Again, I'd say our most popular package is for 2-month campaigns. We do require kind of a 2-month commitment. Yeah. Again, if there's clinics who want to do 30 days, that's fine. But I kind of feel like alarm bells go off if they're only committed for 30 days, because then they're thinking, great, it's a 30, like they just think it's a money quick scheme, which is not. Includes all advertising spend, email marketing dashboard, account manager, like the all-in-one system with the training as well. But typically we do require that 2-month commitment just so they can see it through. We get past that testing phase, then we can also guarantee results, which every client varies a little bit. For example, we're not going to guarantee 50 fat freezing courses to sell, but we could guarantee 50 like facials. So
sorry, Ron, and I was just going to say on the back of that, Ron, actually, just in terms of, you know, that's so in terms of working with other Facebook agencies, what you have to work into, you know, what you have to look at is most people will charge you a fee and then your advertising spend is on top of that. So I think, you know, with Richard, it is all in. And my comment about it being expensive is just really based on, it depends what service you are trying to generate leads for. If you have got a service which is a higher cost, then obviously, you know, you won't generate as many leads and the cost of the package becomes, you know, more insignificant. But it's just a word of warning really to any HydraFacial clinics that are thinking about doing it, is, you know, you do have to make sure, like I said, that your numbers work and you are generating enough leads to cover that cost, because you need to be doing more than covering a cost for something to work. But that's, again, one of the really good things about working with Richard, because he is so upfront about everything. So you will know what you are likely to achieve.
Brilliant. Okay. That's excellent. I think that was really useful. Thank you, Emma, and thank you, Richard, because, you know, I think this is important, and particularly I think because, you know, we struggle with this a little bit with HydraFacial as well sometimes when, you know, one of our little tricks and support things is obviously the red carpet events, which of course we haven't been able to do it last year anyway. But we've been found to be incredibly successful for those clinics that have a big database, because basically all their HydraFacial customers are just sitting in there. So it's a great way just to kind of kick them off into how that business model works and selling packages. But certainly at the moment that's difficult. And certainly if you're new and don't have that database there, then I think Facebook advertising is probably, well, I think it's without a doubt the most effective way of spending your marketing budget at this point in time, outside of doing what my daughter does, which is, you know, the kind of the Instagram social media stuff, which is great, but as you know, does take a lot of time and effort as well, which is money. So thank you again. That's wonderful. Emma, I wish you the best of luck. It's only 4 or 5 weeks to go.
I know, we can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. And Richard, thank you again. That's fantastic. And what I'll do, I'll kind of post your details here as well. So if anyone wants, I guess you can just offer a free chat with them for a start to look at how you can help them and, you know, what they want. So that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.